Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Chess of Obscurity. This time we are actually looking into the most obscure of consoles ever devised by man. We are looking into the PC Engine, otherwise known over here as the TurboGrafx-16. Now, there are plenty of games that have been released over here, but yet some were stinkers, others were memorable. But one game we are actually going to look at today is Super Volleyball. That's right, Super Volleyball for the TurboGrafx-16. And one moment as I fix this flicker. Give me a hot second. There. By way of Alt and Tab, you know, that's how I fix my flicker. But yeah, I think this game needs to be a little bit more louder, so let me turn this up a bit. Only because I had, you know, everything at a low setting. So, let me see. That, and there we go. So, Super Volleyball. I saw a review of this game not too long ago. So as you can tell, you got a choice between the following: USA, Russia, Brazil, Holland, France, Italy, Japan, and China. So it doesn't matter who I pick because it's the best of 3 teams. It's a simple game. It lacks music, you know, like in-game music. And only, you know, sometimes there can be, like, you know, little pieces of music like what you heard right there. It kind of reminds me of Super Spike V-Ball in a sense, or Kings of the Beach. Volleyball has been one of those sports that have been totally intensive. Yeah, I mean totally intense. Yeah, I said intensive. Yes, this game can be intensive. Because if you think about it, volleyball is the most intense beach sport there is. I, for one, feel that most of the games on TurboGrafx-16 kind of felt overshadowed. Because if you really think about it, the only games that were basically, you know, for show were the Bonk series, the Legendary Axe, and of course, there's also Keith Courage and Alpha Zone, which personally was one of its flagship games. But the one thing I think that the TurboGrafx really excelled in was the fact that they had a lot of shooters. And most of them were technically like, I don't think they were ever released in the States, and if they were, there were only a few of them. And I do have a few of these games, as you'll probably see on the channel, like Magical Chase, Blazing Lasers, A Final Soldier. And of course, you know, there were some games that just weren't as popular. This is one of these games that are not as popular. Oh, and there's also another game which I did on my channel, which was Crater Maze. And that was based off of Doraemon Maze Island. Or rather, it's Doraemon Maze Island Adventure, I believe it's called. And of course, I haven't forgotten about Bubblegum Crash, because it's based off the anime series known as Bubblegum Crisis. I haven't been really energetic as far as, you know, TurboGrafx 16 games were concerned, even though I have quite a few of them on my Magic Engine emulator. I really haven't like put into any effort some games that, you know, might be for, you know, cause of viewer interest. Now there is one game that I probably will plan to do sometime in the future on this channel, and that game is the Tower Druaga on the TurboGrafx 16. Now this version of the Tower Druaga is totally different because it has more of an RPG-ish style. So, like, you're still playing classic Druaga, but, you know, you have more of a story behind it, and there's like, you know, a list of your stats and whatnot that you can easily update by clearing floors and or picking up certain items. I think the only thing that basically made people want to get a TurboGrafx 16 were the titles. I wanted a TurboGrafx 16 earlier when I was a kid, but the problem here in California is exposure. Seriously, that was the only thing that was the real problem that we had in California, especially during the late 80s, early 90s, that you had, that for something like, say, the TurboGrafx 16, there weren't that many places that actually sold the console. And the only place I remember going to was Toys R Us. To this day, I would go to Toys R Us, but it's not as the same as it was back then. And if you remember Toys R Us back in the day, then you know that you would have to take one of those. You would have to take one of those numbers. You know, like if you saw this on sale and it was like, go say, let's say $89, you would have to take one of those big slips. You would have to bring it to the you would have to bring it right to this part of the store where they have all the games and whatnot. It's like a layaway department there, but you brought your ticket. That's what you did. You brought your ticket that you picked up, and therefore, that's what would happen. You would actually have to bring the ticket to that place where they held all the games at, just so they can actually give you the game after you've paid for it at the register. Of course, back in the day, we had more to choose from as far as stores were concerned. Like, we had Fedco, and I'm pretty sure nobody remembers Fedco. I remember Fedco. Fedco is where I got my Nintendo Entertainment System, my very first Nintendo Entertainment System. And I can tell you one thing, that I had the very first one with the light gun and Rob. Now see, that's what people don't tell you about or know about, that the action system wasn't the first. You had a core system which actually had 3 games. You had 2 games to go with it. You also had two controllers. You had everything you would have to do to hook up the Nintendo. And you would have the light gun, Rob, and all its peripherals. And that was the original system that came out with everything that was pretty much, say, back in the day, $100. And it was pretty much the reason why you would get it. Because you had all this stuff and then some. And then on top of that, then you probably got a third game. Now, the third game was, indeed, Super Mario Brothers. The first 2 games you got were basically Gyromite and Duck Hunt. I never did understand the fact behind the robot. And even later, as I am now, I still don't understand why the robot was made. But I suppose it was for Gyromite and Stack Up. Because if you really think about it, Gyromite and Stack Up were basically a compilation piece. But when I was younger, though, I couldn't really enjoy video game music or video game sound. I couldn't enjoy video games because I had echolalia at the time. And because I had, echolalia, that means that whatever I heard, it sort of amplified on the other side of my ear. And basically, I think it was my left side. My left ear was like that. So I had to go and, get that dealt with. And I think that's the only reason why, to this day, my ear now would be twitching and whatnot. Or why my ear would close up like that. Because, that I don't have echolalia, but, just the little side effects of getting rid of it just still remain. But it's very slim, though. But yeah, something like the TurboGrafx, though. These days, you would have to go to a mom and pop store. A mom and pop video game store. To find something like this. To where you can find all bits of the TurboGrafx 16. Or, if you felt like it, a turbo CD. Because I think that's what changed the market, especially when you had titles like Castlevania, Dracula X, Rondo of Blood, and other such notable titles. which can also be found through emulation. What most people don't realize is that emulation is second best to actually having the console, because there's some places that don't sell consoles anymore. It's like the only place I know that would still sell this would probably be Japan, because they still sell, you know, Laserdiscs. That is just so messed up right there. Look at that. It's like, well, we lost. Yeah, let's make it more interesting. I mean, for me, I don't play that many sports games. I really don't. I rather highlight them, but I don't play as many sports games. It's quite funny, though, when you really think about it. Because as I said before, you couldn't really find anything like this in this day and age unless if you had a mom and pop video store that basically had everything. I used to go to a store in which, when I was younger, and most people remember the name, called Funkoland. Funkoland had basically just about everything. But there was only one problem with ours. And I remember the story very clearly. It was one day my mom and I actually went to the store. And it was in Gardena. And there was a game I saw and I really wanted. I remember the title, and it was for Sega Saturn. It was Night Warriors Darkstalker's Revenge. I wanted that. So my mom agreed she would get me this game. And when brought to the counter, she basically said, she was basically told, okay, we don't have this. Okay, so I decided to get another game. They said they don't have this. And then my mom basically said, okay, well, what do you have then? I mean, really, what do you have then? I'm like, yeah, that's a good question. So, well, we don't have this game, that's for certain. And I remember this happened on my birthday, too. So she said, well, get yourself something. Well, just get yourself something. Anything. So what I did was I actually got a game for PlayStation 1 known as Xenogears. And then I remember I played Xenogears, and I never thought I would get so addicted to that game. And this is before the age of using the internet. So basically, I'm playing this game blind, totally blind, without any kind of, strategy guide, any sort of help on what to deal with or how to deal with. I basically played up until, say, the very end of the game, to where I got to the final dungeon. And the final dungeon was so confusing. Because I'm trying to think, okay, where am I supposed to go if I went the wrong way or if I went the right way? For the life of me. And I do mean, for the life of me, to this day, I'm like, okay, I must be stuck. I must have not picked up a certain item that I wanted. But I know for a fact that, there was a certain way out. So to this very day, I'm like, okay, when I decide to do Xenogears, I will do myself a great justice, because it was a good game. It's probably one of the better games I had on PlayStation at the time, and I never finished it because I didn't understand the final dungeon so well. Now that's funny. Back in the day, I could beat Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9 with zero to no problems. To no problems at all. I have very little to work with, and plus on top of that, well, especially for 7, I didn't care much for getting, all the summons and whatnot. Just not really worth it, And as I said, you think about it now with emulation. Emulation is probably the best bet you can possibly have. If you still don't have the actual console, then emulation is the way to go. And emulation is just about everywhere, it seems. And for what it's worth, it's basically just that. You don't want to pay that much money for getting a console, and then you have to hook it up to your TV, and then you gotta find the games, and it's such a hassle too. It really is. People don't know it's such a hassle to actually find the games, even if they make them for the system. There's still the fact that, they may be fan-based, so guess what? You're going to have to pay an arm and leg to buy this one fan-based game that can physically be made to play on the console. For me, I don't want to do that. And I really do mean it. It's not like I don't like playing with the actual console. But I feel, if you have something to play just like the console, why not? Especially what I do on YouTube, when I actually have the energy and the time to do so. Technically you want to basically show off a little something that has never been seen before. Or you've heard of it, but you've not once played it. This is me right now. This is what I'm doing. Because I never had TurboGrafx 16. I never owned one. I would have loved to have one. But in my area, such things like TurboGrafx, Saturn, PlayStation, I never got that much out of because the area that I live don't carry all sorts of well-known games in the area. I mean, well heard of. So I only got the games that basically I could say is okay and say it's worth trying out. Like, I know I have a lot of Saturn games. I still have my Saturn. It's sitting around in my room somewhere. My PlayStation got waterlogged, so had to get rid of it. But yet, I still kept the cards. My PlayStation 2 is kind of sort of active, but I don't plug it in very often. My Wii and 360 are the only two consoles that are sitting right next to me, as well as my 3DS. Those are the only three consoles that are just sitting around me. I still have my Super Nintendo, my Nintendo, my Sega Genesis, and my Game Gear. And what's funny is, after all this, it's safe to say that, you know, I basically turned myself into a collector of sorts. And the only good I can actually try to do for PlayStation 2 is the emulator. And the emulator is basically a nice addition to the channel because, oh hey, I can play my own games. And if I really wanted to push the button, yeah, I would download an ISO for it, but I prefer to get the actual feeling for it. I'd rather get the disc. Not that I don't like getting, not that I don't want to download the ROM, but if you already got the actual game, then what's the point of actually getting the ROM? Or in this case, the ISO. But at the very least, I can say, doing certain games on this channel, showing them off to those who've never heard of it, is a treat. That said, I hope you have enjoyed this trip down memory lane as we watched 2 matches of Super Volleyball for the TurboGrafx 16. It is something different and something worth trying. And, well, whatever lack of there was for this game, well, I wish there was more to it, but, you know, TurboGrafx is like the most obscure of many obscure consoles that there was back in the late 80s, early 90s. And plus, there are very few games that I want to showcase. And I feel that the Chest of Obscurity is probably the best way to show it off. So I've been your friendly neighborhood Tenkaichi, and this was Super Volleyball for the TurboGrafx 16, brought to us by NEC of 1990. So with that, I hope you have enjoyed this video. And if you'd like to see more, please let me know in the comments what you would like to see from the Chest of Obscurity, or perhaps even that of a Let's Play. Until next time, folks, take care, God bless, have a great and wonderful weekend, and I shall see you next time for more videos. So with that said, take care, see you next game, and Tenkai Muso.